Today we're going to be embroidering and embellishing photo frames to go with our Instax photo cameras. So let's dive right in. If you're anything like me, you grew up with a cute Polaroid camera and now they have these awesome Instax cameras. They come in all different colored photo frames that can be used to take pictures of all of your favorite moments and memories. And today we are going to be taking some of my favorite Instax photos, or at least this one, and we are going to be embroidering it right into this fabric frame so that I can hang it up on my wall, and I'm going to show you step by step the process to do that. Now these landscape frames I have in kits. They're available on my website. I will link them below. They come in pink and in blue, so if you like the blue-green landscapes, I have that available, or if you like the sunset, sunrise landscape in pinky purple, I have that available as well. Today I'm going to be working on the sunrise, sunset, pinky purple, peachy landscape. I'm going to be showing you how I would embellish it. Keep in mind that with these landscape panels, you can embellish them and embroider them any way you like. The world is your oyster. You can stitch it up however you feel is best. So I'm going to show you one way, but feel free to make it your own. If you're new to the channel, my name is Lauren. I am the fiber artist and quilter behind Garden Girl Studio. I share embroidery tutorials as well as small business vlogs, daily life vlogs, and small business tips. So if you are into that, I would love for you to come along on the journey with me. You can hit that subscribe button, and I release a video every Sunday so that we can hang out, stitch things up, and chat about small businessy things. So without further ado, let's get stitching. So to get started, you'll notice this panel is actually reversible. It can be any which way, depending on if your photo is vertical or if your photo is landscape. So you can go ahead and spin it around any which way you like. I have it mounted into my embroidery hoop with moon side up, but you could also do sun side up. It's totally up to you how you want to arrange your hoop. No big deal either way. And of course, you can always take it out of the embroidery hoop and spin it if you want to change out your photo through overtime. The first thing we need to do though is make sure that our photo is going to stay mounted into our frame. That's the most important thing we do. If we do nothing else with this panel, we need to make sure our photo is going to be mounted in. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So to get started, we need to make sure that our Instax photo is actually going to stay in our frame. And there's a very simple way that we can do this. We're going to be using a Frixion pen. This is a heat erasable pen, meaning that any ink that we draw with this pen is going to come off with some heat. So I can use my mini press iron to get it back off. You're going to center your photo where you'd like it in your frame. That looks about right. Okay, so I'm going to have you mark the four corners of where your photo is located on the panel. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Now I'm going to have you basically we're making a little triangle in this corner. So if this was my corner, we're going to come up along the photo edge and we're going to go across along the photo edge about 1/4 of an inch and just make tiny little dots. Don't worry, no one's going to notice these dots. We are going to heat press them away momentarily. Now you're going to take one of your floss strands, and I am actually going to split my 6 strands into 3. So we're only going to be using 3 of the 6 strands. Okay, my needle is all threaded, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up. So if this is my corner, I'm going to come up either on one of these side dots with my needle. So come up from underneath, and you're just going to stitch across to the other dot. Now what I like to do is I actually like to have more than one strand reinforcing my photo. So I'm actually going to do this a second time right next to those dots. So I've got a second line, just really keeping my photo in nice and tight. And we're going to do this for all 4 corners. Perfect. Okay, so once these are all set, you should be able to take your Instax photo and tuck the corners into the little sides that we made. There we go. And so your photo is going to sit nice and cute inside your frame. Okay, let's go ahead and remove our Frixion pen lines. This is just a little Cricut mini press. So it's just a little iron, and I'm just going to use it, and you can see the little dots go right away with just a little touch of heat. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Okay, there we go. And our dots are all gone. And there you have it. We have our little corner holders that are embroidered in. So if you want to do absolutely nothing else with this project, you have an Instax photo holder, which is great. I'm gonna go ahead and embellish all the way around this embroidery hoop, and I'm gonna do each little section. I'm gonna show you how I would do each section. Now again, you can totally make it your own. I'm gonna show you how I would do the mountains, the trees, the stars, the moon, and so on. So we're gonna go through each little part of this, and I'll show you the stitches that I would use. So you can see I have a variety of floss colors here. I would try to match the floss colors of each section that you're going to be stitching, but again, if you want contrast, you can use something darker, lighter, brighter, whatever's gonna work for your project. The first thing I'm gonna do is we are gonna add our trees. So you can choose whichever color you like, and in fact, you can alternate tree colors if you like. You're gonna use 2 strands of floss. You're gonna come up at the bottom of your tree trunk, and we're just gonna be taking a series of straight stitches. So come up at the bottom of your tree trunk, take a straight stitch all the way to the top of your tree, and then you are just going to take straight stitches from one end of your branch back to the center again. And then you're going to do the opposite branch all the way out to the edge and back to that center trunk again. And if you want to make your trees even more interesting, you can actually do an optional little mini branch in between the center of the trunk and your bigger branches that you just made. And you're going to do this all the way down your tree. You're just going to go out. You're just going to go out, and then you're going to come right back towards the center of the trunk of your tree. And you're going to do this all the way around until all of your trees are finished. The next part of the project that we're going to tackle is actually outlining the ridge of the mountains. There's really 2 layers of mountains. There's the inner ridge, and then there's the little outer ridge mountains. For the inner ridge, I'm going to recommend using a slightly lighter color than the outer ridge. So to get started, I'm using 2 strands of this peachy color, and I'm just going to outline this upper ridge. I'm going to start kind of near where the trees are, and we're just going to be doing a whipped back stitch. So to do a whipped back stitch, we start by doing a back stitch. We're going to just take a single stitch, and then we're going to come up 1 stitch length away and stitch back. We're going to come up 1 stitch length away, and then we're going to stitch back. And we're going to do this all along the ridge of this mountain. And you can see as I'm approaching this edge right here, my line stops and I curve up into the second peak. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to continue back stitching just a couple stitches beyond that intersection. So I will show you what that looks like. So my intersection stops about here, but I want to actually extend it out just to give the mountains just a little bit more depth, to make it look like they're actually overlapping and intertwining into each other. So I'm just going to take 2 stitches beyond. You can take even 3, you can go an additional step. Then I'm going to come back up to that intersection, and I'm going to finish off this last mountain on this side. Take a stitch, and then continue my back stitch. Skip a stitch and stitch back to keep going. But having this little crisscrossing intersection is going to actually just give the mountains just a little bit more depth. Once you reach the trees on the other side, you're going to bring your needle up just beyond your back stitch, and we're going to head back the other way and whip our back stitch. To do this, I'm actually using the back side of the needle, and I'm just going to bring it underneath each stitch, back around to the other side, and it's just going to make these stitches look nice and joined together. This is probably my favorite part. It's really great for linear work that is curved. It's going to give you nice, smooth, curved edges along your project. And you're going to do this all the way back. Once we hit this intersection, I'll show you how to change directions. Okay, once we reach this intersection, because the lines don't quite line up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my needle down at the end of this mountain and up just at the end of our second mountain. And then I'm going to continue on and whip this mountain line until I get back to the beginning. And when you're all done, the ridges of your mountains should look nice and uniform. And then you're going to go ahead and do this all the way around your project. And again, I would make the back mountains just a little bit brighter. Now what's really cool is you're actually going to use this same back stitch, whipped back stitch technique on the moon, the sun, the clouds, and the birds. So it's all the same technique, just choose the color that's appropriate for the section that you're stitching. Next, we're going to fill in our mountain ridges. I'm going to actually follow the design lines that are in our mountain ridges, and you can do this with a whipped back stitch if you want curving ridges, but personally, I just like to kind of make this a fun, fast project. So I'm just going to use those straight stitches again, and I'm just going to kind of give us some nice angular lines following the design lines that are already there. So I'm just going to create a nice straight line there, kind of backstitch it a little. We'll give ourselves a little angle here. And it's going to just be a combination of back stitches and just straight stitches along these ridges. And these give us those nice angular mountain ridges that we love. Place a nice little straight stitch here. I'm going to do one up, kind of heading up toward this other ridge. And this kind of makes our mountain look like it has some shape and some character, and that it can really be climbed and experienced. And again, if you have long lines, you can use a back stitch. If you have short lines, just use a straight stitch. There we go. And I'm just going to create just some horizontal lines right here. And another one to follow this curved edge right here. Perfect. And if you want to add more or less lines, that's totally okay, but this is going to give our mountain just a nice little texture. And you're going to do this all the way around. So you can see we went backstitch the moon. You're going to do the same for the sun, the clouds, and the birds. But for right now, we're actually going to do some star stitches and fill in the stars in this night sky. So I have 2 strands of my yellow here, and I'm going to come up at the top of one of my stars. I'm going to stitch down to the bottom of my star. And I'm just going to fill in the 2 axes. I'm going to stitch in a diagonal and come back down all the way across. Come back up for the other diagonal and stitch all the way across. And I'm just going to follow the lines for all of the major stars that are on this project. Once you're happy with the larger stars that you've added to your night sky, we're going to fill in our smaller stars using French knots. So you're going to come up with where one of the dots is located on your panel. You are going to wrap the floss around your needle 2 to 3 times. In this case, I'm going to do 2 because they're pretty small dots. Bring your needle back down very close to where you brought it up. Make sure your little knot twists are sitting right along the fabric. Hold the strand in place with your thumb while you pull the needle through the fabric and slowly release to get a French knot. I will share a video tutorial of a much slower version of a French knot and a step-by-step tutorial just below. So go on to the description below this video and I will share a link for how to do a French knot much slower. We'll go, you know, step by step, and it's just a much slower tutorial. But if you're familiar with French knots, that's all I'm adding for these small little stars throughout our night sky. So you're going to go ahead and just add French knots to give your night sky just that little extra sparkle. And there we have it. We've added French knots through our night sky. And with just those simple stitches, you should be well on your way to finishing your embroidery hoop. Now I will link all of these stitches that we just reviewed. I will link individual tutorials in the description below this video. So go check those out if you want individual tutorials for how to do each of these stitches. Now it's time to enjoy your embroidery hoop frame. There are 2 ways that you can use this frame moving forward. You can remove the fabric canvas from the hoop. You can just undo the hoop, twist it out, and take out the fabric, and you can put it into a real picture frame. You can frame it up and use it on your wall like you would any other picture or photograph. Your second option is to keep using this embroidery hoop as your hoop art, and I'm going to show you how to finish off the edges of your fabric so that you can enjoy your embroidery hoop right in this frame already made. The very first thing you're going to need is a very long piece of floss. I tied 1 knot at the end. This is actually 2 strands. 2 individual strands for my 6-strand floss. And we're going to do just a giant running stitch all the way around this extra fabric on the back of the hoop. And this doesn't need to be neat or tidy. You're going to come maybe 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch away from the side of your hoop. And you're just going to stitch all the way around with really, really big stitches. You can see how big these stitches are. They don't have to be neat or even. And you're just going to go all the way around. Okay, and once you've stitched all the way around and you've gotten back to where you've started, you're actually just going to pull your floss to cinch in your edges so that your embroidery hoop is nice and neat and tidy on the front side. And don't forget to tie off your knot on the back so that it doesn't come undone. Next step is pretty simple. You can either use this little hook here to mount your frame on a little tack or a nail, or you can use just a little piece of string, twine, or ribbon. Bring it through the top here. You're going to bring the 2 strands together, tie a little knot, and now you have a cute little string that you can use to mount your embroidery hoop. And there you have it. We have our Instax photo frame landscape started. This should get you well on your way to finishing your project. If you enjoyed this, I'm so glad that you were here. Be sure to subscribe, follow along. I would love to keep stitching along with you. Until next time, friends, happy stitching.